There's a special kind of betrayal that doesn't just break your heart. It shatters your entire understanding of who you thought you could trust. Maya learned this on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her younger sister's life, standing in a pale pink bridesmaid dress, watching the man she'd loved for 3 years slip a ring onto her sister's finger. If this story resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Comment where you're listening from, and if you feel it was really worth it, consider becoming a member to get early access to upcoming stories. Your support makes all the difference. The hotel ballroom was decorated in ivory and gold, chandeliers casting warm light over 200 guests who had no idea they were witnessing the cruelest performance Maya had ever endured. She stood at the altar, hands clasped around a bouquet of cream roses, her face fixed in a smile that felt like it might crack her jaw. Across from her, her sister Lily glowed in white lace, radiant, innocent, completely unaware that the man she was marrying had been in Maya's bed just 6 months ago. Or maybe she did know. Maybe that was the point. Maya's eyes drifted to Marcus, her ex-boyfriend of 3 years, standing tall in his tailored tuxedo, his hand reaching for Lily's with a tenderness that used to belong to Maya. He looked happy, genuinely happy. That was the part that hurt most. Not that he'd left her, but that he seemed lighter without her. Freer. More himself. As if loving Maya had been a weight he'd finally set down. The officiant's voice droned on about love and commitment and forever. Maya's throat tightened. She remembered when Marcus had said those same words to her, whispered in the darkness of her apartment, his fingers tracing patterns on her skin. "I'm going to marry you someday, Maya. I promise." That was 2 years ago, back when she still believed promises meant something. Then came the slow unraveling. The canceled dates, the distracted conversations, the way he'd started looking at his phone with a guilty expression she pretended not to notice. And then, 8 months ago, the confession. "I can't do this anymore, Maya. I'm sorry. I don't feel it anymore." She'd cried, begged, actually, which was something she was still ashamed of. But Marcus had been resolute, distant, already gone even as he stood in her living room. "It's not you," he'd said, which was the most insulting lie of all. "It's me. I need space. I need to figure out who I am." 3 months later, she'd seen the Instagram post. Marcus and Lily at a coffee shop, her sister's hand resting on his arm, both of them laughing. The caption read, "Sometimes the best things come when you're not looking." Maya had stared at that photo for an hour, her mind unable to process what her eyes were seeing. It couldn't be. Lily wouldn't. Marcus wouldn't. But they had. They were. And when Maya finally confronted her sister, Lily had cried and apologized and said, "It just happened, Maya. We didn't mean for it to happen. But we're in love. Real love. You have to understand." Maya didn't understand. She still didn't. But here she was, standing as a bridesmaid at their wedding, because her mother had begged her, because her father had given her that look that said, "Don't make this harder than it already is," because somewhere deep down, Maya still wanted to believe she was strong enough to rise above it all. She wasn't. She was dying inside, slowly, smile fixed in place. The ceremony ended. Marcus kissed Lily. Everyone applauded. Maya's hands came together mechanically, the sound hollow in her ears. Then came the reception, the speeches, the first dance. Maya sat at the bridal party table, sipping champagne that tasted like regret, watching Marcus spin Lily across the floor. Her mother kept shooting her concerned glances from across the room. Her father avoided looking at her entirely. "You okay?" Her cousin Rachel slid into the seat beside her, concern etched across her face. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. "You don't have to stay," Rachel said quietly. "No one would blame you if you left." But Maya shook her head. Leaving would mean admitting defeat, admitting that Marcus and Lily had broken something in her that couldn't be fixed. So she stayed. She smiled. She made small talk. She pretended her heart wasn't hemorrhaging in her chest. It was during the toasts that she felt it, that prickling sensation of being watched. Maya glanced up, and her eyes locked with a man standing near the bar. He was tall, easily 6'3", with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, sharp jawline, intense dark eyes, an expensive suit that fit him like it had been made specifically for his body. He wasn't smiling. He was just watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Recognition? Curiosity? Something else? Maya looked away quickly, her pulse suddenly unsteady. She didn't know him. She was certain of that. She would have remembered a face like his. But when she glanced back a moment later, he was still watching her, and this time when their eyes met, something passed between them. A current, an understanding, as if he could see straight through her careful mask to the pain underneath. Then Marcus's best man stood to give his speech, and Maya forced herself to focus, to laugh at the appropriate moments, to clap when everyone else did. But she could still feel those dark eyes on her, steady, unwavering. When the speech ended and people began mingling again, Maya excused herself. She needed air. She needed space. She needed to not be in this room watching the man she'd loved pledge his life to someone else. The hotel had a rooftop terrace. Maya took the elevator up, her heels clicking against marble floors, and pushed through the glass doors into the cool night air. The city sprawled below, millions of lights twinkling like stars. She walked to the edge of the terrace, gripping the railing, and finally let the smile fall away. Her face ached from holding it. Her chest ached from holding everything in. Rough night? The voice came from behind her, deep, smooth, with an edge of something that might have been amusement. Maya turned and found herself face to face with the man from the bar. Up close, he was even more striking. There was something almost dangerous about him, a controlled intensity that radiated from his posture, his gaze, the slight curve of his mouth. You could say that, Maya replied, trying to keep her voice steady. He moved to stand beside her at the railing, keeping a respectful distance, but close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy. "I'm Adrian," he said, extending his hand. Maya hesitated, then took it. His grip was firm, warm, and he held her hand just a second longer than necessary. "Maya," she said. "I know," Adrian replied, and something about the way he said it made her pulse quicken. "You're the bride's sister, the maid of honor who's pretending she's fine when she's clearly not." Maya stiffened. "I don't know what you're talking about." Adrian smiled then, a slow, knowing smile that suggested he saw right through her. "You've been holding the same glass of champagne for 45 minutes without drinking it. You've smiled exactly twice, both times when someone was looking directly at you. And you excused yourself the moment you thought no one would notice." He tilted his head slightly. "So either you're the world's worst wedding guest, or there's a story here." Maya should have been offended by his directness, by the way he'd clearly been watching her closely enough to catalog her behavior. Instead, she felt something loosen in her chest, some tightly wound coil of tension that had been strangling her all day. "And what's your story?" she asked, deflecting. "Why are you here watching me instead of celebrating downstairs?" Adrian leaned against the railing, his posture relaxed, but his eyes sharp. "I'm a business associate of the groom. Marcus works in finance at my company. I'm here because refusing the invitation would have been noted." He paused. "And I'm watching you because you're the only interesting thing happening at this wedding." There was something in his tone, something that made Maya's skin feel suddenly too warm despite the cool breeze. "That's a strange thing to say at someone's wedding," she managed. "Is it?" Adrian's gaze held hers. "I don't find love stories interesting when they're built on someone else's heartbreak." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. He knew. Somehow, this stranger knew exactly what this wedding was costing her. "How did you—" she started, but Adrian cut her off gently. "Marcus talks. Not to me directly, but to others in the office. Word gets around." His expression softened slightly. He mentioned he dated the bride's sister for years before realizing his true feelings. He made it sound like a romance novel, finding his real soulmate. Adrian's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. What he failed to mention was that he destroyed you in the process. Maya felt tears threatening and blinked them back furiously. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of this stranger who seemed to see too much. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice cracked on the word. "No, you're not," Adrian said quietly. "And you don't have to be." There was something about the way he said it. Without pity, without judgment. Just simple acknowledgement that broke something open in Maya. A tear slid down her cheek before she could stop it. She wiped it away quickly, embarrassed. But Adrian had already seen. He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket, real cloth, not paper, and handed it to her. "I don't know you," Maya said, clutching the soft fabric. "Why do you care?" Adrian was quiet for a moment, his gaze distant. "Because I know what it's like to be erased from someone's story. To watch them rewrite history so you become the obstacle they overcame, rather than the person they loved." There was pain in his voice, old but not forgotten. Maya looked at him more carefully, seeing past the expensive suit and confident demeanor to something raw underneath. "Who hurt you?" she asked softly. Adrian smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Her name was Victoria. "We were engaged. She left me for my business partner 3 weeks before our wedding. Said she'd realized she'd been settling, that she deserved more passion, more fire." He looked out at the city. They got married 6 months later. I received an invitation. "Did you go?" Maya asked, already knowing the answer. "No," Adrian said. "I have more self-respect than that." He turned back to her, and there was something fierce in his expression. "Which is why I'm wondering why you're here, Maya. Why you're torturing yourself by watching him marry her." "Because my family asked me to," Maya said, and it sounded pathetic even to her own ears. "Because I wanted to prove I was strong enough to handle it." Adrian's gaze was steady. Strength isn't enduring pain because others expect you to. Strength is knowing when to walk away. He straightened, adjusting his cuffs. "Do you want my advice? Leave. Right now. Let them have their perfect night. You don't owe them your presence as decoration for their happiness." Maya knew he was right, but something kept her rooted in place. Some stubborn part of her that refused to give Marcus and Lily the satisfaction of knowing they'd broken her. "I can't," she whispered. Adrian studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly, as if coming to a decision. "Then, let me make you an offer," he said. "Stay at this wedding, smile through the rest of the night, be the gracious sister everyone expects you to be." He moved closer, and Maya's breath caught. "But when it's over, come with me." "Come with you where?" Maya asked, her voice barely audible. Adrian's smile was slow, deliberate, dangerous in the best possible way. "Anywhere but here, my penthouse. A hotel. The back seat of my car." His eyes held hers. "Somewhere you can stop pretending. Somewhere you can feel something other than pain." Maya's heart was hammering. "You're asking me to sleep with you," she said, needing to make it clear, to understand exactly what he was offering. "I'm asking you to let me help you forget," Adrian corrected. "For one night. No strings. No expectations. Just 2 people giving each other what they need." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers grazing her cheek. You need to feel wanted, desired, chosen. And his voice dropped lower, I need to stop thinking about how you've been looking like you're about to shatter all night. It was insane. Maya knew it was insane. She didn't know this man. But something about his directness, his refusal to pretend this was anything other than what it was, felt refreshingly honest after months of lies and careful omissions. And underneath the shock, underneath the part of her that said good girls don't do this, was something else. Want. Raw, desperate want to feel anything other than the crushing pain that had been her constant companion. Why me? Maya asked. You could have anyone. Adrian's laugh was quiet, almost sad. Because you're real. Because your pain is real. I'm tired of people who perform their lives for social media. He stepped back, giving her space. But I'm not going to pressure you. If you want to go back downstairs, forget this conversation ever happened. I'll respect that. He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to her. But if you want to do something for yourself tonight, something that has nothing to do with being the good daughter or the gracious sister, my number is on there. Maya took the card, her fingers trembling slightly. Adrian Blackwood, CEO, Blackwood Industries. She recognized the name, a tech empire worth billions. This wasn't just some random guest. This was one of the wealthiest men in the city casually propositioning her on a rooftop. Think about it, Adrian said. I'll be at the bar for another hour. After that, I'm leaving. He moved toward the terrace doors, then paused and looked back. For what it's worth, Maya, he's an idiot. Anyone who could let you go isn't smart enough to deserve you in the first place. Then he was gone, and Maya was left alone with the city lights and a business card that felt like it was burning a hole in her palm. She should throw it away. She should go back downstairs, finish the reception, go home, and forget this entire night ever happened. She should be sensible, practical, the responsible person she'd always been. But Maya was so tired of being sensible. Being sensible had gotten her 3 years with a man who'd left her for her own sister. Being responsible had led her to standing in a bridesmaid dress, watching her life implode. And suddenly, the thought of going back down to that reception, of enduring another hour of pitying looks and forced smiles, felt impossible. Maya looked down at the card in her hand, Adrian Blackwood's name, embossed in elegant silver lettering. One night. No strings. Just forget everything. She turned the card over, running her thumb across the smooth surface, and made a decision that felt both terrifying and liberating. She was done being the good girl who followed the rules, while everyone else took what they wanted. She went back down to the reception. The dancing had started, clusters of guests swaying to some generic pop song the DJ had chosen. Maya made her way through the crowd, accepting congratulations and well wishes with practiced smiles, until she found her mother near the cake table. Mom, Maya said, keeping her voice steady, I'm not feeling well. I think I'm going to head out. Her mother's face creased with concern. Oh, honey, are you okay? Do you need me to drive you? Maya shook her head quickly. No, I'll be fine. Just a headache. Too much champagne, probably. The lie came easily. Tell Lily I said congratulations again. Her mother pulled her into a hug that Maya barely returned. I'm proud of you, her mother whispered. I know today was hard, but you handled it beautifully. Beautifully. As if grace under fire was something to celebrate rather than a survival mechanism. Maya extracted herself from the embrace and made her way toward the exit, careful to avoid the dance floor where Marcus and Lily were wrapped around each other. She didn't look back. She couldn't. If she looked back, she might lose her nerve entirely. The hotel bar was dimly lit, all dark wood and leather, designed for expensive whiskey and quiet conversations. Maya spotted Adrian immediately, sitting alone at the far end, a tumbler of amber liquid in front of him. He saw her approach, and something flickered across his face, surprise maybe, or satisfaction. He stood as she reached him, every inch the gentleman despite the decidedly ungentlemanly proposition he'd made an hour ago. "I'm leaving," Maya said without preamble, "and I'd like you to take me with you." Adrian's expression didn't change, but she saw his grip tighten slightly on his glass. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly. "This isn't something you can take back." Maya met his gaze directly. "I'm sure." She wasn't, not entirely, but she was sure she couldn't go home alone to her empty apartment and her empty bed and spend another night replaying every moment of her relationship with Marcus, trying to figure out where she'd gone wrong. Adrian set down his glass and signaled for the check. "My car is in the parking garage," he said. "We can go anywhere you want. A hotel if you prefer neutral ground. My place if you trust me." His directness was almost clinical, making sure she knew she had options, that she could still back out. But Maya was done with options. Options were what had led her to this point, always choosing the safe path, the responsible path. "Your place," she said, and watched something dark and hungry flash through his eyes. "All right then." Adrian settled the bill and placed a hand on the small of her back, guiding her through the hotel lobby. His touch was light, almost tentative, as if he was still giving her room to change her mind. They didn't speak in the elevator down to the parking garage, or during the walk to his car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Maya made in 2 years. He opened the passenger door for her, and as she slid into the leather seat, Maya felt the surreality of the situation wash over her. Hours ago, she'd been watching the man she loved marry someone else. Now, she was getting into a stranger's car, about to go home with him, about to let him touch her in ways that should have been Marcus's privilege. The thought should have stopped her. Instead, it fueled something reckless and wild in her chest. Adrian got into the driver's seat and started the engine, the car purring to life with barely a whisper of sound. "Last chance," he said, his hand on the gear shift. "We can still just get coffee if you've changed your mind." Maya appreciated that he kept offering her exits, kept making it clear this was her choice. But she was done with safe choices. "Drive," she said, and he did. The city slipped past outside the windows, lights blurring into streams of color. Adrian drove with easy confidence, one hand on the wheel, the other resting casually on the gear shift. Maya watched his profile, the sharp angles of his face illuminated intermittently by streetlights. He was beautiful in that dangerous way, the kind of beautiful that warned you he could break your heart if you let him. But Maya's heart was already broken. What was one more crack in the foundation? "Tell me something about yourself," Adrian said, breaking the silence. "Something that has nothing to do with Marcus, or your sister, or this disaster of a wedding." Maya thought for a moment. "I'm a graphic designer," she said. "I work for a small firm downtown. I specialize in book covers for indie publishers." Adrian glanced at her. "Do you like it?" It was such a simple question, but no one had asked her that in years. Marcus had always been focused on when she'd move to a bigger firm, make more money, be more ambitious. "I love it," Maya admitted. "There's something about creating the visual representation of someone's story, being the first thing that draws a reader in." She paused. "It feels important in a small way." Adrian smiled, genuine warmth in the expression. Important in a small way is still important. Most people never find work that means anything to them. There was respect in his voice that made Maya sit up a little straighter. They pulled into an underground garage beneath a gleaming high-rise. Adrian parked in a spot marked Reserved Penthouse and came around to open Maya's door. The elevator required a key card to access the top floor, the final barrier between them, and what was about to happen. Maya's pulse was racing as the elevator climbed, each floor passing with a soft chime. Adrian stood close enough that she could feel his body heat, but he didn't touch her. Not yet. The elevator opened directly into his penthouse. Maya stepped out and stopped, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the space. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, the view so spectacular it didn't seem real. The decor was modern, minimalist, all clean lines and neutral tones. It was beautiful, but impersonal, like something from an architecture magazine. "Can I get you a drink?" Adrian asked, moving toward the kitchen. Maya shook her head. If she had a drink, she might lose her nerve, might start overthinking what she was about to do. She turned to face him. "I don't want a drink," she said clearly. Adrian went very still. "What do you want, Maya?" His voice had dropped lower, taken on an edge that made her shiver. Maya closed the distance between them, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She stopped just inches from him, close enough to see the darker flecks in his eyes, to count the faint lines around his mouth. "I want to forget," she said. "I want to stop thinking. I want to feel wanted, the way you said." She reached up, placing her palm against his chest, feeling his heart beating strong and steady beneath her hand. "I want you to make me forget his name." Adrian's control shattered. One moment they were standing apart. The next his hands were in her hair, his mouth on hers, and Maya was drowning in sensation. He kissed like a man starving, all-consuming hunger tempered with just enough restraint to keep from overwhelming her entirely. Maya kissed him back with everything she had, channeling months of pain and rejection and loneliness into the press of her lips, the dig of her fingers into his shoulders. Adrian walked her backward until her spine hit the window, the cool glass a shock against her overheated skin. His hands were everywhere, sliding down her sides, gripping her waist, tracing the curve of her hip through the thin fabric of her bridesmaid dress. Maya arched into him, desperate for more contact, more friction, more everything. His mouth moved from her lips to her jaw, trailing burning kisses down the column of her throat. "Tell me if you want me to stop," he murmured against her skin. "Tell me if this is too fast." But Maya didn't want him to stop. She'd spent 3 years with Marcus in a relationship that had become comfortable, predictable, safe. There had been no passion in the end, just routine. This was the opposite of routine. This was wildfire. "Don't stop," she breathed, and felt him smile against her neck. His hands found the zipper of her dress, slowly pulling it down. The fabric loosened, slipping off her shoulders, pooling at her feet. Maya stood in just her underwear and heels, the city lights behind her casting her in shadow and gold. Adrian stepped back, his gaze raking over her with an intensity that made her feel like the only woman in the world. "You're stunning," he said, and the raw honesty in his voice made her believe it. Not pretty. Not beautiful in some generic, obligatory way. Stunning, like the sight of her had momentarily robbed him of the ability to think clearly. Maya reached for his tie, loosening it with trembling fingers. "Your turn," she said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. He helped her with the buttons of his shirt, shrugging out of the expensive fabric. Maya's breath caught. He was all lean muscle and smooth skin, with the kind of body that came from discipline rather than vanity. There was a scar running along his left ribs, old and faded. Maya traced it with her fingertip. "What's this from?" she asked. "Car accident," Adrian said. 10 years ago. I was young and stupid and thought I was invincible." His hand covered hers, pressing her palm flat against his chest. "I learned I wasn't." The vulnerability in that admission made Maya's chest ache. She leaned forward, pressing her lips to the scar, feeling him inhale sharply at the contact. "You're not invincible," she whispered against his skin. But you're still here. Adrian's hands tangled in her hair, tilting her face up to his. So are you, he said. After everything, you're still here. That takes a different kind of strength. He kissed her again, slower this time, more deliberate. It wasn't just physical anymore. There was something deeper happening, some connection forming that Maya hadn't expected and wasn't sure she could handle. But she didn't pull away. She let herself sink into it, let herself feel everything she'd been suppressing for months. Adrian lifted her easily, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her through the penthouse to his bedroom. The room was as minimalist as the rest of the apartment, dominated by a massive bed with crisp white sheets. Adrian laid her down carefully, reverently, as if she were something precious. He stood at the edge of the bed for a moment, just looking at her, and Maya felt a flush creep up her chest under his scrutiny. "What are you thinking?" she asked. Adrian's smile was slow, dangerous. "I'm thinking Marcus is even more of an idiot than I gave him credit for." Then he was on the bed beside her, his weight a welcome pressure. His hands explored her body with a combination of confidence and curiosity, learning what made her gasp, what made her arch, what made her dig her nails into his shoulders. Maya had been intimate before, obviously, but this was different. Adrian paid attention. Every sound she made, every involuntary movement, he catalogued and responded to. It was overwhelming and perfect and exactly what she needed. When he finally moved between her thighs, settling his weight over her, he paused. "Protection," he said, reaching for the nightstand. Maya appreciated that he'd thought of it, that even in the heat of the moment he was being responsible. She watched him tear open the wrapper with his teeth, watched him roll it on with practiced efficiency, and felt her pulse spike with anticipation and nervousness. "Look at me," Adrian commanded softly, and Maya met his eyes. There was heat there, yes, but also something gentler. Understanding, maybe. He knew this was about more than just sex for her. This was reclaiming something, proving something to herself. "I've got you," he said. "I promise." Then he pushed forward, slow and steady, giving her body time to adjust. Maya's breath hitched. He was bigger than Marcus, filled her more completely, and for a moment the sensation was almost too much. "Breathe," Adrian murmured, his forehead pressed against hers. "Just breathe." Maya did, forcing her body to relax, and suddenly the stretch became pleasurable, the fullness exactly right. She nodded, giving him permission to move, and Adrian began to thrust with a rhythm that had her gasping. His hands gripped her hips, angling her body to take him deeper. Maya's nails raked down his back, leaving red lines in their wake. It built gradually, that tension low in her belly, coiling tighter and tighter with each movement. Adrian's mouth found hers again, swallowing her moans. His thumb found the sensitive bundle of nerves between her legs, circling with just the right pressure. Maya shattered. The orgasm ripped through her with an intensity that had her crying out his name, her body clenching around him. She heard Adrian groan, felt him thrust once, twice more before he followed her over the edge. For several long moments they stayed frozen like that, breathing hard, bodies still connected. Then Adrian rolled to the side, pulling her with him, so they lay facing each other. Maya's mind was pleasantly blank, her body humming with residual pleasure. She couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this good, this present in her own skin. "Okay?" Adrian asked, pushing damp hair back from her face. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice yet. They lay in silence for a while, just existing in the aftermath. Maya expected to feel regret, shame, something other than this deep satisfaction, but it didn't come. She'd done something for herself tonight, something that had nothing to do with being good or responsible or meeting anyone else's expectations, and it felt liberating. "Thank you," she said finally. Adrian's eyebrow quirked. "For what?" Maya gestured vaguely. "For this. For making me feel like I was worth wanting." Adrian's expression softened. He traced the line of her jaw with gentle fingers. You are worth wanting, Maya. You always were. He paused. Marcus not seeing that says everything about him, and nothing about you. The words settled somewhere deep in Maya's chest, soothing an ache she hadn't realized was still raw. Can I stay? She asked, suddenly not wanting to face the real world quite yet. Adrian pulled her closer, tucking her head under his chin. As long as you want, he said simply. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through floor to ceiling windows and momentary disorientation. This wasn't her bedroom. The sheets were too soft, the mattress too firm, the space too large. Then memory returned in a rush. The wedding, the rooftop, Adrian, everything that had happened after. She turned her head to find Adrian already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her. Morning, he said, his voice rough with sleep. Maya's instinct was to panic, to grab her clothes and run, but something about his steady gaze calmed her. Morning, she replied. Coffee? Adrian asked, already moving to get up. He pulled on pajama pants that hung low on his hips, leaving his chest bare. Maya nodded, pulling the sheet up to cover herself, suddenly self-conscious in the morning light. Adrian disappeared through the bedroom door, and Maya took the opportunity to locate her clothes. The bridesmaid dress was draped over a chair, her heels arranged neatly beside it. Evidence of how carefully Adrian had picked up after them. She found one of Adrian's shirts in the closet and pulled it on, the fabric enormous on her smaller frame. It fell to mid-thigh, effectively covering everything while being infinitely more comfortable than the dress. When she emerged from the bedroom, she found Adrian in the kitchen, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He looked up at her entrance and smiled. That looks better on you than it ever did on me, he said. Maya accepted the coffee gratefully, wrapping both hands around the warm mug. They stood in awkward silence for a moment, the intimacy of the night before feeling strange in the clarity of morning. So, Adrian said finally, leaning against the counter, I don't usually do this. Maya raised an eyebrow. Have coffee with women wearing your shirts? He laughed. Well, yes, but I meant the whole spontaneous hookup thing. His expression turned more serious. Last night was unusual for me. For me too, Maya admitted. I've never done anything like that before. She hesitated. I don't want you to think I make a habit of going home with strangers. Adrian shook his head. I don't think that. And for what it's worth, you don't feel like a stranger. It was true. Despite having only met hours ago, there was an ease between them that Maya couldn't quite explain. Maybe it was because they'd been so honest from the start, or maybe it was because they'd both been hurt in similar ways and recognized that pain in each other. What happens now? Maya asked, voicing the question hanging between them. Adrian was quiet for a moment, considering. That depends. Do you want this to be just last night? One moment in time? His eyes met hers. Or do you want to see where this goes? Maya's heart stuttered. She hadn't expected that option. You want to see me again? She asked, unable to keep the surprise from her voice. Adrian set down his coffee and moved closer. Maya, I spent 2 hours watching you last night before I even approached you, watching you hold yourself together with sheer will. And then I spent the night with you, and you were everything I'd imagined, and more. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. So yes, I'd like to see you again. It was too much too fast. Maya knew that. You didn't build something real from a one-night stand. But Adrian was looking at her with such sincerity, such genuine interest, that she found herself nodding before she'd fully thought it through. Okay, she said. Let's see where this goes. Adrian's smile was brilliant. Yeah? He asked. Yeah, Maya confirmed, and found herself smiling back. They spent the morning talking, really talking. Adrian told her about growing up with impossible expectations, the pressure to take over his father's company, the way Victoria's betrayal had almost broken him. "I thought I'd never trust anyone again," he admitted. "I built walls so high no one could climb them." He looked at Maya. "But you didn't climb them. You just walked right through like they didn't exist." Maya told him about her relationship with Marcus, the slow erosion of intimacy, the shock of his relationship with Lily. "The worst part wasn't that he left," she said. "It was that he seemed so happy after. Like loving me had been a burden he was relieved to put down." Adrian's jaw tightened. "He's an idiot," he said flatly. "Anyone who looks at you and sees a burden is too stupid to deserve you." They ordered breakfast from a nearby restaurant, eating bagels and drinking more coffee while sitting on Adrian's couch overlooking the city. It felt surreal, this domestic scene, like they were playing house. But it also felt right, in a way Maya couldn't quite articulate. When she finally said she should probably go home, get changed, face reality, Adrian drove her back to the hotel to get her car. "Can I see you tonight?" he asked as she gathered her things from his back seat. Maya paused. "Tonight?" Adrian nodded. "Dinner. Somewhere nice, an actual date." The idea sent a thrill through her. "Isn't this moving a little fast?" she asked. Adrian smiled. "Probably. But we already did things backward. Might as well commit to it." Maya laughed despite herself. "Okay. Dinner tonight." She gave him her address, and Adrian promised to pick her up at 7. Maya drove home in a daze. Last night she'd been at her ex's wedding. This morning she was planning a date with a billionaire. It felt like whiplash, like her life had been picked up and shaken until nothing was where it used to be. But underneath the disorientation was something else. Excitement. Hope. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, the worst night of her life had led to something unexpectedly good. Her apartment felt empty when she walked in, more so than usual. Maya showered, washing away the last physical traces of the night before, but she couldn't wash away the memory of Adrian's hands on her skin, his voice in her ear, the way he'd looked at her like she was the only person in the world. She spent the afternoon working on a book cover design, trying to focus, but her mind kept drifting. What was she doing? Was this a rebound? Was she using Adrian to avoid processing her feelings about Marcus? But when 7 o'clock approached, and she heard the knock on her door, all her doubts evaporated. Adrian stood in the hallway wearing dark jeans and a gray sweater that made his eyes look even darker. He held a single sunflower. "You said at the wedding that sunflowers were your favorite," he said, handing it to her, "when your cousin asked what flowers you'd want at your own wedding." Maya's heart clenched. She'd forgotten that conversation, a throwaway comment made hours before everything changed, but Adrian had remembered. Dinner was at a small Italian restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where the owner knew Adrian by name and ushered them to a private corner table. They talked through appetizers and entrees, conversation flowing easily. Adrian asked about her work, genuinely interested in the covers she'd designed, the authors she'd worked with. Maya asked about his company, and he explained the tech innovations they were developing with an enthusiasm that made his whole face light up. "I never thought I'd care about the business," Adrian admitted over tiramisu they were sharing. "My father groomed me for it from birth, and I resented every minute. But then I took over and realized I could do things differently, build something that actually mattered, instead of just chasing profit." He paused. "Victoria hated that about me. She wanted the CEO who collected companies like trophies. When I started focusing on sustainable tech and ethical practices, she said I was wasting my potential." Maya reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. You're not wasting anything, she said firmly. You're using your power to make things better. That's the opposite of waste. Adrian turned his hand over, lacing their fingers together. See, this is what I meant about you being different. You get it. The warmth in his voice made Maya's chest feel tight. This was definitely moving too fast. But she couldn't bring herself to care. After dinner, Adrian drove her home, but didn't presume she'd invite him up. He walked her to her door like a proper gentleman, hands in his pockets. I had a really good time tonight, Maya said, and meant it. Adrian smiled. Good enough for a repeat? Maya pretended to consider. I suppose I could fit you into my schedule. She was teasing now, feeling lighter than she had in months. Adrian laughed and leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to her lips. I'll call you tomorrow, he promised, but he didn't wait until tomorrow. Maya's phone buzzed at midnight with a text. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Sweet dreams. She fell asleep smiling, her phone clutched in her hand. The next weeks unfolded like a dream. Adrian took her to art galleries and concerts. They spent Sunday afternoons in his apartment, Maya working on designs while Adrian reviewed contracts, existing in comfortable silence. He met her for coffee between meetings. She brought him lunch at his office. It was intense and all-consuming, and probably not healthy, but Maya didn't care. Marcus tried to call her twice. Maya let both go to voicemail. The first message was awkward, asking if she was okay, saying he'd noticed she'd left the reception early. The second was more direct. Maya, I know this is weird, but Lily and I wanted to invite you to dinner. We want to all move forward as a family. Maya deleted both messages without responding. She had no interest in playing happy family with them. She was too busy building something new. 3 weeks after the wedding, Adrian took Maya to a company gala. She wore a deep blue gown that hugged her curves, and when she emerged from her bedroom, Adrian went completely still. You're going to give me a heart attack, he said, his voice rough. Maya laughed. Is that a compliment? He crossed to her, pulling her close. That's a warning. Every man in that room is going to want you, and I'm going to have to fight the urge to tell them, all you're mine. The possessiveness in his tone should have bothered her. Instead, it sent heat spiraling through her body. I am yours, she said softly. Adrian's eyes darkened. Say it again. Maya smiled, feeling powerful. I'm yours, Adrian. He kissed her then, deep and claiming, and they were almost late to his own event. The gala was elegant, full of important people in expensive clothes. Maya felt out of her depth until Adrian introduced her to everyone as my girlfriend Maya, an incredible artist. She met his business partners, his investors, people whose names she recognized from magazine covers. And Adrian never left her side. His hand always at the small of her back, his attention always half on her, even when discussing million-dollar deals. During dinner, she felt his hand on her thigh under the table, a gentle possessive touch that made her hyper-aware of him beside her. You're distracting me, she whispered. Adrian smiled innocently. Good. When they danced later, Adrian pulled her close, their bodies fitting together perfectly. I'm falling for you, he said quietly, his lips against her ear. I know it's too soon and too fast, and I should probably keep that to myself. But I don't want to. Maya's heart hammered. Adrian, you don't have to say anything, he interrupted. I just wanted you to know. You walked into my life at the worst possible moment, and somehow became the best thing in it. Maya pulled back enough to look at his face, seeing vulnerability and hope mixed in his expression. I'm falling for you too, she admitted. It terrifies me. But I am. Adrian's smile was radiant. He kissed her in the middle of the dance floor, not caring that people were watching. And Maya kissed him back, thinking that maybe, just maybe, Her sister marrying her ex-boyfriend was the best thing that ever happened to her. They left the gala early, unable to keep their hands off each other. In the car, Adrian's hand crept higher on her thigh, his fingers tracing patterns that had Maya squirming. "You're going to cause an accident," she breathed. Adrian just smiled. Dangerous and knowing. When they reached his apartment, they barely made it inside before they were tearing at each other's clothes. The expensive gown ended up in a puddle on the floor. Adrian lifted her against the wall, and Maya wrapped her legs around him. "Tell me you want this," Adrian demanded, his voice ragged. "Tell me you want me." Maya gripped his shoulders, meeting his eyes. "I want you," she said clearly. "Only you." Something fierce and possessive flashed across Adrian's face. He carried her to the bedroom, laying her out on the bed like an offering. Then he proceeded to worship every inch of her body with his mouth, his hands, until Maya was writhing and begging. When he finally entered her, it felt like coming home. They moved together with desperate intensity, all pretense of control abandoned. Maya cried out his name when she came, and Adrian followed moments later, burying his face in her neck. Afterward, they lay tangled together, hearts racing, skin slick with sweat. "That was," Maya started, then lost the words. Adrian laughed breathlessly. "Yeah, it was." The next morning, Maya woke to find Adrian already gone, a note on his pillow, "Emergency meeting. Didn't want to wake you. Make yourself at home. I'll be back by noon." Maya stretched, her body pleasantly sore, and decided to make breakfast. She was scrambling eggs when her phone rang. Lily's name flashed on the screen. Maya considered ignoring it, but curiosity won. "Hello?" She answered cautiously. "Maya, thank God," Lily said, her voice tight. "We need to talk. Can you meet me for coffee?" Maya's first instinct was to refuse, but something in her sister's tone gave her pause. "Is something wrong?" she asked. Lily was quiet for a moment. "Please, just meet me. That place on 5th, the one we used to go to. 1 hour?" Maya agreed against her better judgment, and hung up feeling unsettled. She left a note for Adrian and drove to the coffee shop, arriving to find Lily already there, looking pale and anxious. Maya slid into the seat across from her, not bothering with pleasantries. "What's this about?" she asked. Lily wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "I wanted to apologize," she said quietly. "For everything. For Marcus, for the wedding, for hurting you." Maya's jaw tightened. "A little late for that, don't you think?" "I know," Lily said quickly. "I know it's too late, and I know sorry doesn't fix anything. But Maya, I need you to know, I didn't plan for this to happen. Marcus and we tried to stay away from each other. We really did. But the feelings were just too strong, and I thought maybe you'd moved on and it would be okay." She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "I was so selfish. I didn't think about what it would do to you." Maya felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a strange emptiness, where her feelings for her sister used to be. "You're right, you were selfish," Maya said flatly. "You took something that wasn't yours and you didn't care who you hurt in the process." Lily flinched. "I care now," she whispered. "Marcus and we're not doing well. The guilt is eating at both of us. Every time we look at each other, we see what we did to you." There was a bitter satisfaction in hearing that, but it was shallow and fleeting. "Good," Maya said. "You should feel guilty. But that's not my problem anymore." She stood to leave, but Lily grabbed her wrist. "Wait, please. I saw the photos from the Blackwood Gala. You were there with Adrian Blackwood." Her eyes were wide. "Maya, are you dating him?" Maya pulled her hand free. "That's none of your business." "He's Marcus's boss," Lily said desperately. "Marcus is terrified he's going to lose his job over this. Adrian's been cold to him ever since the wedding." Please, Maya, whatever you have with Adrian, don't use it to hurt Marcus. Don't stoop to our level. Maya stared at her sister, seeing clearly for the first time how small she was, how weak. You think I'm dating Adrian to get revenge on Marcus? She laughed, sharp and bitter. Lily, I'm not thinking about Marcus at all anymore. Adrian and I have nothing to do with him. But Marcus works for him, Lily pressed. And Adrian's been making things difficult, moving Marcus to smaller accounts, excluding him from important meetings. It's obvious he's punishing Marcus for what happened with you. Maya felt a flicker of something, concern maybe, but pushed it aside. If Adrian is treating Marcus differently, maybe it's because Marcus's personal drama is affecting his professional reputation. That's not my fault. Please, Lily begged. Just talk to Adrian. Ask him to back off. Marcus is miserable. We're struggling to pay our bills because his commissions have tanked. I know we hurt you. But please don't destroy our whole lives over it. Maya looked at her sister, this person she'd once loved more than anyone, and felt nothing but pity. You destroyed your own lives, Lily. I'm just living mine. She walked out of the coffee shop without looking back, but the conversation nagged at her on the drive back to Adrian's apartment. Was Adrian punishing Marcus for her sake? And if he was, how did she feel about that? When she got back, Adrian was home, sitting on the couch with his laptop. He looked up when she entered, his face lighting up. Hey, I was starting to worry. Where did you go? Maya sat beside him. I met with Lily. She wanted to apologize. Adrian's expression immediately darkened. How did that go? He asked carefully. Maya sighed. She apologized, which was hollow and meaningless. But she also said something that bothered me. She turned to face him fully. Adrian, have you been making things difficult for Marcus at work? Adrian didn't flinch, didn't look away. Yes, he said simply. Maya's stomach dropped. Why? Because he's an arrogant ass who thinks he can treat people like garbage without consequences, Adrian said flatly. He's been coasting on nepotism and mediocre work for years. I've been looking for an excuse to downgrade him, and his personal drama gave me one. He reached for Maya's hand. But I need you to understand something. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because he's bad at his job, and I'm tired of carrying dead weight. Maya wanted to believe him, but doubt niggled at her. Lily said it started after the wedding, after we got together. Adrian sighed. The timing is coincidental. I was planning to restructure his department anyway. The wedding just made me accelerate the timeline. He squeezed her hand. Maya, I'm not using my position to get revenge for you. I wouldn't do that. It would make you complicit in something you didn't ask for. Promise me, Maya said urgently. Promise me you're not tanking his career because of me. Adrian pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I promise. Marcus's professional struggles are entirely his own doing. If he'd been better at his job, the restructuring wouldn't have affected him. But he's not. So it did. He tilted her face up. I would never put you in that position. Never. Maya wanted to believe him. She did believe him, but a small voice in the back of her mind wondered if she was being naive, if she was so desperate to believe in Adrian that she was ignoring red flags. Okay, she said finally. I trust you. Adrian kissed her softly. Thank you. They spent the rest of the day together, and Maya pushed the conversation with Lily out of her mind. She focused on Adrian, on the life they were building together, on how happy she felt for the first time in months. But that night, alone in her own apartment, Maya couldn't stop thinking. Was she moving too fast with Adrian? Was she using him to avoid processing her feelings about Marcus? And most troubling, was she becoming the kind of person who dated someone partly for the status and protection they offered? She'd never been that person. She'd always prided herself on standing on her own 2 feet. But there was no denying she felt powerful walking into rooms on Adrian's arm. Felt validated when he introduced her as his girlfriend to important people. Maya pulled out her phone and scrolled through photos from the gala. In every picture, she and Adrian looked perfect together, like they belonged in that world of wealth and influence. But did she belong there? Or was she just playing a role, pretending to be someone she wasn't? The questions plagued her through the night, and when morning came, Maya was no closer to answers. 2 months into their relationship, Adrian asked Maya to move in with him. They were having dinner at his place, a quiet evening in after a hectic week, when he brought it up. "I know it's fast," Adrian said, setting down his fork, "but you're here most nights anyway, and I like having you here. The apartment feels empty when you're not in it." Maya's heart raced. Moving in together was a big step, the kind of step that said this was serious, this was long-term. "What about my work?" she asked, buying time to think. "I need space for my design equipment." Adrian smiled. "I'll convert one of the spare bedrooms into a studio for you. Full natural light, whatever equipment you need, complete creative control." He reached across the table. "Maya, I want to build a life with you. I know we haven't been together long, but I've never been more sure of anything." Maya looked at their joined hands, thinking about how her life had changed in such a short time. 2 months ago, she'd been watching Marcus marry her sister, convinced she'd never be happy again. Now she had Adrian, brilliant and successful and completely devoted to her. It should have been an easy decision. But something held her back. "Can I think about it?" she asked. Adrian's face fell slightly, but he nodded. "Of course. Take all the time you need." The next day, Maya met her best friend Sarah for lunch. She needed perspective, needed someone who knew her well enough to tell her if she was making a mistake. Sarah listened to everything: the whirlwind romance, Adrian's proposal to move in, Maya's doubts. When Maya finished, Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "Okay, I'm going to be honest with you," Sarah said finally. "This whole thing sounds intense. Almost too intense." Maya's stomach sank. "What do you mean?" Sarah leaned forward. "Maya, 2 months ago you were devastated over Marcus, completely broken. And now you're talking about moving in with a guy you barely know? It feels like you're rushing into this to avoid dealing with the Marcus situation." Maya wanted to argue, but couldn't find the words. "I know it's fast," she admitted. "But Sarah, I really care about him, and he treats me so well, better than Marcus ever did." "That's great," Sarah said gently, "but being better than Marcus is a pretty low bar." "Marcus was terrible to you." She reached across the table. "I'm not saying Adrian isn't a good guy. From what you've told me, he sounds amazing. But I'm worried you're using this relationship to escape your pain instead of processing it. And that's not fair to either of you." The words hit harder than Maya expected, because deep down, she knew Sarah was right. "So what do I do?" Maya asked, feeling tears prick her eyes. Sarah squeezed her hand. "I think you need to slow down. Keep dating Adrian, but don't move in yet. Give yourself time to be sure this is what you really want, and not just what feels good in the moment." Maya nodded, knowing her friend was right even as part of her resisted. That evening, she told Adrian she needed more time before making such a big decision. He was disappointed, but understanding. "I don't want to pressure you," Adrian said, pulling her close on the couch. "But I need you to know I'm all in here, Maya. I'm not going anywhere." His certainty was both comforting and terrifying. Over the next weeks, Maya tried to take Sarah's advice and slow things down, but it was nearly impossible. Adrian was so present, so attentive, always wanting to see her, talk to her, be with her, and Maya found herself unable to say no, unable to create the space she knew she needed. They attended another company event. This one, a product launch party for Adrian's newest tech innovation. Maya wore red, a bold choice that made her feel confident and powerful. Adrian couldn't take his eyes off her all night. "You're incredible," he whispered in her ear during the speeches. "Do you know that?" Absolutely incredible. Maya felt herself melting, her resolve to slow down crumbling under the weight of his attention. At the party, Maya ran into Victoria, Adrian's ex-fiancée. She recognized her from photos Adrian had shown her, a tall blonde woman with sharp features and calculating eyes. Victoria approached with a champagne flute in hand and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "So you're the new girlfriend," Victoria said, looking Maya up and down. "Adrian certainly has a type." Maya forced a smile. "And you must be the ex-fiancé who left him for his business partner." Victoria's smile tightened. "I'm guessing he told you his version of events. How I was cold and ambitious and heartless." She took a sip of champagne. "Did he tell you how controlling he was? How he needed to know where I was every second? How he couldn't handle the fact that I had ambitions of my own?" Maya felt defensive anger rise. "That's not the Adrian I know." Victoria laughed, sharp and bitter. "Give it time, sweetheart. You're still in the honeymoon phase. Wait until he starts questioning where you are, who you're with, why you need time alone." Maya wanted to dismiss Victoria's words as the bitter ramblings of a jealous ex, but they planted a seed of doubt. She thought about how Adrian always wanted to know her schedule, how he texted constantly when they were apart, how he seemed happiest when she was right beside him. She'd interpreted it as devotion. But could it be something else? When she got home that night, alone for once because Adrian had late meetings, Maya couldn't stop thinking about Victoria's words. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her texts with Adrian. There were hundreds from just the past week. Good morning messages, lunch check-ins, evening plans, good night wishes. It was sweet. It was attentive. But it was also constant, overwhelming, leaving no space for her to breathe. Maya set down her phone and stared at the ceiling. Was she seeing problems that weren't there? Or was she ignoring red flags because she was so desperate to believe in this relationship? The next morning, Maya woke to 15 missed calls from Adrian. Her heart jumped, panic flooding through her. Something must be wrong. She called him back immediately. "Maya, thank God," Adrian answered, his voice tight with worry. "I've been trying to reach you for hours. Are you okay?" Maya frowned. "I'm fine. I was sleeping. What's wrong?" There was a pause. "Nothing's wrong. I got worried when you didn't answer." "Adrian, it was the middle of the night," Maya said slowly. "Of course, I didn't answer." Another pause. Longer this time. "I know. I'm sorry. I don't sleep well when you're not here, and when I couldn't reach you, I thought maybe something had happened." His voice was vulnerable, almost childlike. Maya felt her irritation soften. "I'm okay," she said gently. "But Adrian, you can't panic every time I don't answer my phone. That's not healthy." "I know," he admitted. "I'm sorry. It's just, after Victoria, I have trust issues. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for you to realize you'd be better off without me." The raw honesty in his voice made Maya's chest ache. "I'm not Victoria," she said firmly. "I'm not going anywhere." But even as she said it, she wondered if she was making a promise she could keep. After they hung up, Maya sat in bed for a long time, thinking. That afternoon, Maya decided to take a long walk alone, something she hadn't done in weeks. She needed to clear her head, to think without Adrian's presence influencing her thoughts. She walked through the park, watching families play and couples hold hands, and tried to sort through her feelings. She cared about Adrian deeply, maybe even loved him. But Victoria's words had exposed something Maya had been trying to ignore. The relationship was all-consuming in a way that felt both wonderful and suffocating. Her phone buzzed with another text from Adrian. "Missing you. Can't wait to see you tonight." Maya stared at the message, feeling pressure build in her chest. She typed back, "Can we talk tonight? There's something I need to discuss." His response was immediate, of course. "Everything okay?" Maya didn't answer, needing space even from the texting. When she finally returned home and got ready for dinner with Adrian, she'd made a decision. She needed to be honest about her concerns. They met at a quiet restaurant, and Adrian immediately sensed something was wrong. "What's going on?" he asked, his face tight with worry. Maya took a deep breath. "I ran into Victoria at the party last night." Adrian's expression darkened. "What did she say to you?" Maya shook her head. "It's not about what she said specifically. It's about what I've been ignoring." She reached across the table. "Adrian, I care about you so much, but I think we need to slow down." Adrian pulled his hand back as if burned. "Slow down," he repeated flatly. "What does that mean?" Maya struggled to find the right words. "It means I need space to breathe. Space to figure out who I am outside of this relationship. We've been so intense since day one, and I think I've lost myself a little bit in it." Adrian's face went through several emotions: confusion, hurt, anger, before settling on something that looked like fear. "This is about what Victoria said, isn't it?" he asked. "She told you I was controlling." Maya hesitated. "She said some things that made me think about our dynamic." Adrian leaned back, his jaw tight. "And you believed her? You believed my bitter ex-fiancé over me?" Maya shook her head. "I'm not saying I believe her. I'm saying she pointed out some patterns that I'd noticed, but hadn't wanted to acknowledge." "Like what?" Adrian demanded. Maya took another breath. "Like how you text me constantly. Like how you get anxious when I don't respond immediately. Like how you always need to know where I am and who I'm with." She saw him flinch and softened her tone. "Adrian, I know it comes from a place of caring, but it feels suffocating sometimes. I feel like I can't breathe without checking in with you first." Adrian was quiet for a long moment, his hands clenched on the table. "I had no idea you felt that way," he said finally, his voice strained. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "Because I didn't want to hurt you, and because part of me liked being that important to someone." She paused. "But Sarah was right. I've been using this relationship to avoid processing what happened with Marcus. And that's not fair to either of us. So what are you saying?" Adrian asked, and there was something vulnerable and young in his voice. "Are you breaking up with me?" Maya's heart clenched. "No. I don't want to break up. But I need us to establish some boundaries. I need time alone without feeling guilty about it. I need to be able to not respond to texts immediately without you panicking. I need space to be myself." Adrian nodded slowly, looking down at his hands. "Okay," he said quietly. "I can do that." He looked up, and his eyes were wet. "I don't want to lose you, Maya. If I've been too much, I'll back off. I'll give you whatever space you need." The desperation in his voice made Maya want to take back everything she'd said, to comfort him, to promise she'd never need space again, but she forced herself to hold firm. "Thank you," she said softly. "I think this will be good for both of us." They finished dinner in awkward silence, and when Adrian dropped her at her apartment, his goodbye kiss was tentative, uncertain. Maya watched him drive away, and felt a confusing mix of relief and regret. Had she done the right thing? Or had she just sabotaged the best relationship she'd ever had? The next few days were strange. Adrian kept his distance, texting only once or twice a day, brief messages asking how she was. Maya had wanted space, but now that she had it, she felt its absence acutely. She missed him, missed his attention, his devotion, the way he made her feel like the center of his universe. Was she being ungrateful? Plenty of women would kill for a man who cared as much as Adrian did. By the end of the week, Maya was second-guessing everything. She called Sarah, needing to talk it through. "I think I made a mistake," Maya said. "Adrian's giving me space like I asked, and it feels awful. I miss him." Sarah sighed on the other end of the line. "Missing someone doesn't mean your concerns weren't valid, Maya. It just means you care about him. But that doesn't change the fact that the relationship was moving too fast and felt too intense." "Maybe intense is good, though," Maya argued. "Maybe I was overthinking things because I'm scared of getting hurt again." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Okay, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to really think about the answer. If Adrian wasn't wealthy and successful, if he was just a regular guy with a regular job, would you still be with him?" The question hit Maya like a punch. "That's not fair," she protested. "But it's relevant," Sarah pressed. "Be honest with yourself, Maya. How much of your feelings for Adrian are about him, and how much are about what he represents?" Maya wanted to deny it, to insist that Adrian's wealth and status had nothing to do with her feelings. But she couldn't. Because if she was completely honest, there was a part of her that loved being on his arm at fancy events, loved the way people treated her differently when they knew she was Adrian Blackwood's girlfriend. She'd gone from being the pitiful ex at her sister's wedding to someone important, someone who mattered. And she'd loved that transformation. "I don't know," Maya admitted finally, and the words felt like a betrayal. Sarah's voice was gentle. "I think you need to figure that out before you go any further with him. Because if you're with him for the wrong reasons, you're eventually going to hurt him badly. And from what you've told me, he's already been hurt enough." Maya hung up feeling worse than before. That night, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to untangle her feelings. She thought about the night they met, the way Adrian had seen through her mask to the pain underneath. She thought about their conversations, the way he listened, really listened when she talked about her work. She thought about how he'd converted a room into a studio for her, how he supported her career even when it meant less time together. Those things had nothing to do with his money. Those were about who he was as a person. But she also couldn't deny that part of her enjoyed the lifestyle, the access, the way doors opened when she was with him. She'd never cared about money before Marcus, but seeing him with Lily had awakened something bitter in her, a need to prove she was worth more, could do better, and Adrian had been the perfect vehicle for that proof. Maya realized with uncomfortable clarity that she'd been using Adrian, not intentionally maybe, but using him nonetheless. The next morning, Maya called Adrian. "Can we talk? In person?" They met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. Adrian looked tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well. "I've missed you," he said as soon as she sat down. Maya's resolve wavered, but she pushed forward. "I need to be completely honest with you about something," she said, "and I need you to really hear me." Adrian straightened, tension visible in his shoulders. "Okay. When I met you, I was at the lowest point of my life," Maya began. "Watching Marcus marry Lily destroyed something in me. And you made me feel valuable again. Important. Wanted." She saw Adrian start to smile and held up her hand. "But I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize I haven't been fair to you." His smile faded. "What do you mean?" Maya forced herself to continue. "I think I've been using this relationship to prove something. To Marcus, to Lily, to myself. I wanted to show them I could do better, be with someone more successful, more important." Adrian went very still. "So this whole time I've just been a way to make your ex jealous?" His voice was flat, controlled, but Maya could hear the hurt underneath. No, she said quickly. Not exactly. I do have real feelings for you, Adrian, but I can't honestly say my feelings aren't tangled up with what you represent. She reached for his hand, but he pulled away. I'm sorry. You deserve someone who wants you just for you, not for the life you can provide. And you don't? Adrian asked. Maya felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know if I fell for you, or for the idea of you, and I can't in good conscience keep this going until I figure that out. Adrian looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. So this is it then. You're ending things. Maya wanted to say no, wanted to take it all back. But she forced herself to nod. I think I need to. For both our sakes. Adrian stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. I should have known, he said bitterly. Victoria warned me. You know. She said I had a pattern of falling too hard, too fast for women who were just using me as a meal ticket. Maya flinched. That's not fair. I never wanted your money. Adrian laughed, harsh and sharp. Maybe not consciously, but you loved what it represented. You loved being Maya Blackwood's girlfriend more than you loved being with me. That's not true, Maya protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Adrian shook his head. I actually thought you were different. I thought after Victoria, I'd finally found someone who saw me, not just my bank account. He leaned down, his voice low and cutting. Congratulations, Maya. You got your revenge on your ex. Hope it was worth it. Then he walked out, leaving Maya sitting alone with her tears and her regrets. The next weeks were brutal. Maya threw herself into work, taking on more projects than she could handle, anything to avoid thinking about Adrian. But he was everywhere, his company's logo on billboards, his name in the business section, memories of him in every corner of her apartment. She'd made the right choice, she told herself. She couldn't be with someone when she wasn't sure of her own motivations, but God, it hurt. Marcus called her one day, surprising her. I heard about you and Blackwood, he said without preamble. Are you okay? Maya wanted to tell him it was none of his business, but she was too tired to fight. No, she admitted. I'm really not. There was a pause. Can I buy you coffee? I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, but I think we need to talk. Against her better judgment, Maya agreed. They met at the same coffee shop where she'd ended things with Adrian. Marcus looked different, older somehow, with lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. Lily and I are getting divorced, he said as soon as they sat down. Maya blinked, shocked. What? It's only been 3 months. Marcus laughed bitterly. Turns out building a relationship on betrayal isn't a great foundation. Who knew? He ran his hand through his hair. We can't stop fighting. Every little thing becomes this huge issue, and we're both carrying so much guilt about you that we can't even look at each other without feeling sick. Maya didn't know what to say. Part of her felt vindicated, but mostly she just felt sad. I'm sorry, she said, and meant it. Marcus shook his head. Don't be. We deserve this. He looked at her directly. I need to apologize to you properly. What I did, going after Lily while we were still together, was unforgivable. I was a coward. Instead of being honest that our relationship had run its course, I looked for an escape route. He paused. You deserved so much better. Yeah, I did, Maya agreed. There was no anger in it, just acknowledgement of fact. Marcus smiled sadly. Adrian Blackwood. That was quite the rebound. Maya flinched. It wasn't a rebound. Or at least, it wasn't supposed to be. She found herself telling Marcus everything. About meeting Adrian. About the intensity of their relationship. About her confusion over her own motivations. Marcus listened without interrupting. And when she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Can I tell you something? Marcus finally said. When Lily and I got together, I told myself it was true love. That it was worth hurting you because we'd found something special. But the truth is, I think I was just scared. Scared of commitment. Scared of the next step with you. Scared of becoming the person you needed me to be. He met her eyes. Running to Lily was easier than facing my own inadequacy. Why are you telling me this? Maya asked. Marcus shrugged. Because I see you doing the same thing. Running from Adrian because you're scared of your own feelings. Because it's easier to question your motivations than to admit you might actually love him. He leaned forward. Maya, I know I have no right to give you advice. But don't make the same mistakes I did. Don't sabotage something real because you're afraid. Maya wanted to argue, but couldn't find the words. Was Marcus right? Had she run from Adrian because she was genuinely unsure of her feelings, or because being sure would mean being vulnerable again? After coffee with Marcus, Maya went home and did something she'd been avoiding. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through photos of her and Adrian. There were dozens. At restaurants, at galas, in his apartment. In every single one, he was looking at her with such open adoration, it made her chest ache. And she was looking at him the same way. Not at the camera, not performing for anyone else, just looking at Adrian like he was her whole world. Because in those moments, he had been. Maya realized with sudden clarity that she'd been lying to herself. She did love Adrian, not for his money or his status or what he represented. She loved him for the way he listened when she talked about design theory, for the way he brought her coffee exactly how she liked it, for the way he'd held her that first night, making her feel safe and wanted after months of feeling invisible. She'd pushed him away because she was terrified. Terrified of loving someone that much, of giving them the power to hurt her the way Marcus had. It had been easier to question her own feelings than to risk that kind of vulnerability again. But in protecting herself, she'd destroyed something real, something precious. Maya picked up her phone, pulling up Adrian's number. Her finger hovered over the call button. What would she even say? I'm sorry I doubted us. I'm sorry I was too scared to believe in what we had. Before she could overthink it further, she pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then voicemail. Adrian's voice, professional and distant. You've reached Adrian Blackwood. Leave a message. Maya's throat tightened. Adrian, it's me. Maya, I need to talk to you. Please call me back. She hung up and waited. An hour passed. Then 2. Then a whole day. Adrian didn't call back. Maya tried calling again the next day. And the day after that. Each time it went to voicemail. She sent texts that went unread, emails that went unanswered. Adrian had shut her out completely. And Maya couldn't blame him. She'd accused him of being a status symbol, questioned the authenticity of their entire relationship, then walked away. Why would he give her a second chance? But she couldn't give up. She'd spent too long being passive, letting things happen to her. This time, she was going to fight for what she wanted. She showed up at Adrian's office building on a Thursday afternoon. The receptionist recognized her, smiled warmly. Miss Maya. Are you here to see Mr. Blackwood? Maya nodded, heart pounding. I don't have an appointment, but could you tell him I'm here? Please, it's important. The receptionist's smile faltered. I'm sorry, Miss Maya, but Mr. Blackwood left strict instructions that he's unavailable to you. The words were like a slap. Maya felt tears burning, but refused to let them fall. Right, of course. Thank you. She was turning to leave when the elevator doors opened, and Adrian stepped out, deep in conversation with another executive. He looked good. Too good, in a charcoal suit that highlighted his broad shoulders. But there were shadows under his eyes, a tightness around his mouth that hadn't been there before. Their eyes met across the lobby. Time seemed to stop. Adrian's expression shuddered, becoming cold and distant. He said something to his companion and walked toward her. "What are you doing here?" His voice was flat, professional, nothing like the warmth she was used to. Maya's courage wavered, but she forced herself to speak. "I needed to see you. You won't return my calls." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Because we have nothing to discuss. You made yourself very clear at the coffee shop." He moved a step past her, but Maya caught his arm. "Please, just give me 5 minutes." Adrian looked at her hand on his sleeve, then at her face. Something flickered in his eyes, there and gone so fast, Maya almost missed it. "Fine. 5 minutes. My office." He led her to the elevator without another word. The ride up was silent, tension crackling between them. His office was huge, all glass and steel with the same spectacular city view as his apartment. Adrian closed the door and leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "You have 5 minutes." Maya took a breath. "I was wrong. About everything. About my motivations. About using you. About questioning what we had." The words tumbled out quickly, desperate. "I pushed you away because I was terrified. Terrified of loving someone that much again after Marcus destroyed me. It was easier to convince myself I was using you than to admit I'd fallen completely in love with you." Adrian's expression didn't change. "You're in love with me," he repeated, flatly. "Now. After you've had time to miss the lifestyle." "No," Maya said urgently. "I'm in love with you, because of who you are. Because you see me, really see me, in a way no one else ever has. Because you're kind and passionate, and you care about things that matter. Because when I'm with you, I feel like the best version of myself." She took a step closer. "The money and the status, I won't lie and say I didn't enjoy it, but I would love you just as much if you were broke." Adrian laughed, sharp and bitter. "That's easy to say when I'm not broke." He shook his head. "Maya, I've been down this road before. Victoria said all the same things when I was considering leaving the business to start a nonprofit. She said she'd love me no matter what. But the moment I actually started making plans, she was gone." He pushed off the desk, moving to the window, putting distance between them. "I can't do this again. I can't be with someone who's only there for what I can provide. I'm not Victoria," Maya said desperately. "I'm not asking you for anything except a chance to prove how I feel." Adrian turned back, and his eyes were hard. "You already had your chance. You threw it away." The words were final, dismissive. Maya felt something break inside her. "So that's it? One mistake and I'm done? You won't even let me try to make it right?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "It wasn't one mistake, Maya. It was a fundamental question about whether you actually want me or just want to be wanted by someone successful. And I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly wondering if you're there because you love me or because you love what I represent." Maya understood then. She'd broken his trust so completely that nothing she said would fix it. Words weren't enough. She needed to show him. "Okay," she said quietly. "I understand. But Adrian, I need you to know something. You asked me once what I wanted, and I said I wanted to forget. But what I really wanted was to feel like I mattered, like I was worth something. And you gave me that. Not through your money or your status, but through the way you looked at me, the way you listened, the way you made space for me in your life." She moved toward the door, pausing with her hand on the handle. "I'm sorry I hurt you. And I'm sorry I didn't realize what I had until I'd already lost it. But I want you to know that loving you, even for the short time I had, changed me. You showed me I deserve to be someone's first choice, not their consolation prize, and I'll always be grateful for that." She opened the door, but Adrian's voice stopped her. "Maya, She turned back, hope flaring, but Adrian's expression was still closed off. "Take care of yourself," he said simply. It was goodbye. Final and absolute. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice, and walked out. She made it to her car before the tears came. Great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She'd lost him. She'd finally found something real, something worth fighting for, and she'd destroyed it through her own fear and self-doubt. The drive home was a blur. Maya went straight to bed, pulling the covers over her head, wanting to disappear into sleep and never wake up. But life didn't stop just because her heart was broken. The next morning, Maya forced herself up, forced herself to work, forced herself to keep moving. Days turned into weeks. The pain didn't fade, but it became more manageable, shifting from acute agony to dull ache. Maya threw herself into her design work, taking on project after project. She reconnected with friends she'd neglected during her relationship with Adrian. She started therapy to work through her issues with trust and self-worth. And slowly, gradually, she began to heal. Not from Adrian. The loss of him was still a constant ache, but from the deeper wounds Marcus and Lily had inflicted. She realized that her worth wasn't determined by whether someone chose to love her. She was valuable just as she was, complete and whole on her own. 3 months after their breakup, Maya got an unexpected call from Adrian's assistant. "Mr. Blackwood would like to invite you to the opening of his new nonprofit initiative. He thought you might be interested." Maya's heart raced. Did he specifically ask for me to be invited? There was a pause. "Yes, ma'am. He added your name to the list personally. It wasn't much, just an invitation to a public event. But it was something. A crack in the wall Adrian had built between them." Maya accepted without hesitation. The opening was at a community center in an underserved neighborhood. Adrian's new initiative focused on providing technology education to kids who couldn't afford it. It was exactly the kind of thing Maya had expected from him, using his resources to make a real difference. She arrived early, nervous and uncertain. The space was filled with families, kids excitedly exploring new computers and tablets. Adrian stood at the front, talking to a group of parents, his face animated in a way she hadn't seen in months. He looked happy. The realization made Maya's chest ache. He'd moved on. He was fine without her. Maybe this invitation wasn't about reconciliation. Maybe it was just closure. Then, Adrian looked up and saw her. His expression transformed, surprise, and something else flickering across his face before he schooled it back to neutral. He excused himself from the conversation and walked toward her. "You came," he said, and there was warmth in his voice that hadn't been there in his office. "You invited me," Maya replied. They stood there awkwardly, years' worth of words unsaid hanging between them. "Can we talk?" Adrian asked finally. "Somewhere private?" Maya nodded, following him to a small office away from the crowd. Once inside, Adrian closed the door and turned to face her. "I've been thinking about what you said, about being terrified of being vulnerable again." He ran his hand through his hair, and I realized I did the same thing. I shut you out completely because I was too scared to get hurt again. Maya's heart was racing. "What are you saying?" Adrian moved closer, his eyes searching hers. "I'm saying I miss you. I miss us. And maybe I gave up too easily because it was safer than risking being wrong about you." He reached out tentatively, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've dated other people these past months, tried to move on. But none of them were you." "I haven't dated anyone," Maya admitted. "I couldn't, because all I could think about was how much I'd screwed up with you." She placed her hand over his, where it still rested, against her cheek. "Adrian, I love you. Not for your money, or your status, or anything, except who you are. And I know I need to earn back your trust. But if you give me that chance, I promise I'll spend every day proving it to you. Adrian was quiet for a long moment, emotions playing across his face. I want to believe you, he said finally. But I'm scared, Maya. Scared of getting hurt again. Scared of investing everything into this and having it fall apart. Maya stepped closer, closing the distance between them. I'm scared too. But isn't love always scary? Isn't that the point? She smiled through tears. We're both broken in our own ways. But maybe we can be broken together. Adrian's resistance crumbled. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I love you, he whispered into her hair. I never stopped. Maya clung to him, feeling pieces of herself she'd thought were lost forever clicking back into place. I love you too. So much. They stayed like that for several minutes, just holding each other. When they finally pulled apart, Adrian cupped her face in his hands. We're doing this differently this time. Slowly. No moving in together right away. No rushing. We build something real. Something that lasts. Whatever you need, Maya agreed. I'm not going anywhere. Adrian kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. It felt like coming home. When they returned to the opening, walking hand in hand, Maya felt lighter than she had in months. This wasn't the fairy tale she thought she wanted on that awful night at her sister's wedding. It was better. It was real, messy, and complicated, and absolutely worth fighting for. And this time, Maya knew exactly what she had. Not a rebound or an escape or a way to prove her worth, but love. Genuine, hard-won, beautifully imperfect love. And that was worth everything.